It's a day of firsts. It's my first time ever brewing or even tasting wheat wine, and I'm going to ferment it in this brand new conical fermenter. This is going to be sweet. How's it going? It's the next day now, the day after brew day. I discovered that I ended up with a little bit of corrupt footage from my primary camera, but no worries, I've still got the side camera and the overhead camera footage. So let me just talk you quickly through the mash in. I probably started with my 99 beers in 99 weeks shtick. My name is Martin Keane. I'm taking the Homebrew Challenge to brew 99 beers in 99 weeks. There we go. Now, this wheat wine is about 50% wheat malt, and I just mashed this straight in here without any rice hulls. That becomes a bit of an issue later on. Nothing too much of a concern, but I didn't use rice hulls. You can see here this is a lot of grain. This is a very big beer, around 1092 original gravity. And then I mashed for just a little bit over an hour at 148 Fahrenheit or 64 Celsius. All right, back to the brew day. I've been using a little bit of mood lighting in the basement here. Look, this room, it's just mainly concrete and insulation on the walls. It's not the best thing to look at, but what do you think? Is this too much? Anyway, wheat wine. I said it's kind of like a cousin to barley wine. They're both really big beers, high gravity, best matured, but there is a bit of a difference, and that is in the fact that barley wine is primarily made out of malt that gives you a very strong malt backbone. Whereas wheat wine, because it's predominantly wheat, has a much lighter, easier drinking mouthfeel. So as for ingredients, building a beer with an original gravity of 1092, around about 9% beer. In terms of the actual grains that are in this beer, they're split 50-50 between wheat and barley, although I am adding some form of sugar in there as well. So I'm using white wheat malt as my wheat, and that will make up 48% of my grist. 42% of the grist is made up with pale two-row malt. And then I'm adding in 5% of Caramunich I. The remaining 5%, well, that's added actually during the boil. That's when I'm going to add the sugar. My sugar is going to come in the form of honey. If you don't want to use honey, then you could just use corn sugar or candy syrup in there, whatever it takes to get to around 1092. But speaking of the honey, so I've been chatting a bit with fellow homebrewer Scott McFarlane, who has his own honey farm in Canada. And he said, would I like to try some samples? So here they are. Scott has just an incredible setup. He has over 100 colonies. Each colony has about 50,000 bees. So something like 5 million bees working for him making honey. You can see here there's actually two colors. There's a lighter and a darker color. That's from when the honey was harvested. So the lighter color is from the spring and the darker color is from the fall. And that just relates to the colors of the wildflowers at the time. Now, Scott tells me that you can effectively substitute the light honey for light candy sugar, basically 1 for 1. So if you've got a recipe and you were going to use 1 pound of candy sugar, you could use 1 pound of honey. And the darker honey here really equates to using a dark candy syrup. I'm going to use one of these darker honeys for this wheat wine. mashing out here at 168 Fahrenheit. Let's talk a little bit about the hops. Now, the barley wine, the American barley wine at least, was a bit of a hop monster. Not so much with wheat wine. Here's what I'll be adding into the boil. I've got as my bittering hop Magnum. This will contribute about 48, 49 IBU, and I'm going to put it in at the start of the boil. Then, in terms of the flavour and aroma hops, well, think kind of white wine, and you're going to be pretty close to the style. And I've got two winey hops here, Hallertau Blanc, which I'm going to add in with 5 minutes to go. The packet says here that this will add pineapple, gooseberry, white grape, fresh lemongrass. So some really sort of pleasant, fruity, light flavours. And then at flame out, I'm going to add Nelson Sauvin. So this one is key lime, pine, tropical fruit, papaya. So yeah, some sort of flavours you might expect to find in a nice, fruity white wine. And of course, there is the honey. If you were brewing a 5-gallon batch, you'd want to use about a pound of honey. Yeah, I'm gonna add this into the boil with just a few minutes left. So this is the second part of my Spike Brewing fermenter set. I brewed an American barley wine in the Flex Plus last week. This is a CF5 Conical fermenter. It's very similar in capabilities to the Flex Plus in that, well, everything's stainless steel with these tri-clamp fittings on everything. It has the ability for temperature control to work with a Glycol chiller. It can be pressurized up to 15 psi like the Flex Plus as well. The big difference though is the fact that we have two butterfly valves, one of which is a dump valve for dumping out yeast at the end of fermentation and potentially harvesting it for something. That's stuff that I'm going to get to as I use this over a number of weeks, but just for today's brew, I'm just going to use this like a normal fermenter, except I am going to take advantage of its pressurized capabilities when it comes to the transfer.
Exhale all the bullshit of my life. Yeah. I inhale all the love that I can find. Yeah. I am not the same no more. Nothing even matters like it did before.
Conical's got its fetching jacket on. I have aerated the wort. It's come out on the money more or less. I think I'm at 1090 original gravity, so that's pretty good. So the yeast that I'm going to put in is Wyeast 1010. This is American wheat. Okay, I've got this all set up now. This is my airlock. I'm just running into a growler full of star sand. I have the Glycol system hooked up, so that's going in here. These three things, the Glycol chiller and then these two fermenters, they look like quite the setup now. Well, I think it's safe to say this is our first time ever tasting wheat wine.
Yeah, I've never even heard of wheat wine.
No.
Honestly.
But I know you were excited to try a beer made with that honey that we got sent.
Yeah, I was. It was really good.
So let's see. It's kind of got a golden honey look to it.
I would agree. Yep, it's very, it's got like an amber color to it. It's also a little bit hazy. I can't see all the way through it.
Yeah, a little hazy, amber, is that right?
Amber, yeah.
I don't know colours. Yeah. Okay, well, let's see what we get on the aroma for this one. I'm getting a little bit of the hops, but not a huge amount. I think I can smell some sweetness too. Maybe it's like wine where you got to swirl it around in the glass, let it breathe.
Maybe.
Well, how about we make some room in the glass?
Okay, sounds good to me. So it's definitely a lot lighter on the taste feel than the barley wines.
For sure, much sweeter too.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what is different from this and the barley wine from last week is I felt like the barley wine was still very immature at 6 weeks old. It really wasn't quite ready. To me, this tastes like it's ready to drink.
Yes, I do agree on that for sure. You probably could store this one and it would age more, correct?
I'm sure it would, yeah.
But with the other ones that you want to age more, they just weren't to their maximum potential.
Yeah.
Whereas this, is drinkable right now.
Yeah, so for me, this has definitely got that sweetness to it, a little bit of fruitiness to it, but not the same sort of fruitiness that you get through adding a lot of citrusy hops. It's not that sort of fruitiness, but it's still kind of a refreshing taste to it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of more of like a dry fruit.
If you've not tried one yourself, it's absolutely worth doing. I would highly recommend adding something like honey in there as well. So yeah, recipe is in the description below as usual. And Lauren, thank you for tasting this wheat wine.
Cheers!
Cheers!